Specimens and cadaver. Okay, so this is a human specimen, not a cadaver. What do we see here? So a couple things, we're going to actually add a couple things. Sorry. Does anybody know what these two major vessels are? The majorest vessels of all.
Aorta and inferior vena.
The aorta is here. Are we with me with the red thread? And then again, arteries are thick. Actually, there's looks to be somewhat of an aneurysm, this bulgy part, but anyway, it's a thick-walled artery. And then here's the very thin-walled inferior vena cava. So we're going to add those on the sheet. Okay, they're easy ones, so you should be happy. You add easy ones, that should make it easier, right? So aorta and inferior vena cava. The aorta is the more muscular one, and I'm not sure if you knew this, the vena cava is in front, anterior to the aorta. So as we can see, this is kind of how they would exist. Kind of like this. Okay, renal artery is over here on this right kidney. See the renal artery? It's tied off in red thread there. So here's a renal artery. The vein is kind of missing, but we do see the vein on the other side. So the artery is connected to the aorta, and the vein is connected to the vena cava.
Okay, makes sense.
So there's that adrenal gland again, like a little cap. Okay, not on the list. So here is the renal vein. Notice how flat, collapsed, weak, no form, no integrity. No disrespect, but just being objective. Alrighty, so artery here in my right finger, vein here on my left finger. Can't really see too many other things. You could probably see a pyramid there, but we could. This specimen actually shows the pyramids quite well. So, other things that we'll see here. So I'm going to move the vena cava out of the way. What are these two things?
The ureters.
These are the ureters. Anyone just checking? What are these two blood vessels that I'm holding right here?
Common iliac artery.
That's right, common iliac arteries. Very good. Who else knew that? You all did, right? So anyway, where do the ureters go? Where do the ureters go to?
To the bladder.
To the bladder. Isn't that the smallest bladder you'd ever seen?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the first bladder you've ever seen. How many bladders does one really see in their life? This is really, in fact, this is not even, it's more than the bladder. The bladder is only, I'm going to hold the bladder with my hand. Okay? This is the prostate gland. So the bladder is what I'm holding. This big lumpy bottom part is the prostate gland.
Oh, geez.
So this is the bladder. How do I know that? Because I'm an anatomy teacher. And besides, look at where I told you, remember, it's a little confusing here, but I'm going to follow the ureter. It comes in at the bottom of the bladder, which is, by the way, right here.
Okay.
So this is the ureter, the distal portion coming in at the bottom of the bladder. So this is the urinary bladder. I'm not sure why it's so small. I've seen others in cadavers. They're more what you might think, the size of, when it's deflated, the size of an apple, roughly. This one's very minuscule. So this is the bladder. This kind of bottom part, it's also sticking out a little. This I'm pinching now is the prostate gland. So right hand holding the bladder, left hand holding the prostate gland, which is beneath the bladder and a little in front. So, and then you might know urine, this is a male now, because it has a prostate gland. This has a prostate gland, it has to be a male. So the urine exits the bladder through the bottom and goes into the prostate, goes through the prostate. Prostate really doesn't do anything with the urine. During ejaculation, the prostate would add stuff to the semen. Part of semen, about 30% of semen comes from the prostate, but we're not talking about reproduction right now. So in the urine, it does not really participate in the urinary system at all, but the urine runs through a tubule in the prostate called the prostatic urethra, and here's where it comes out. So this, believe it or not, and this would end up, this tubule would end up going, through the man's penis and to the outside world. So this, if I label this little opening there, it's really a tubule that's been cut. This is the urethra. So a little bit of painful, but I put that probe into the urethra. And you can see these on your own once we're done here, so you could, if things are looking a little messy or just all brown to you, certainly you can look at them and see the things that we need to see. Okay, so bladder, prostate, and a very small portion of the urethra. Okay, we do see some reproductive structures on here. And the urethra is actually reproductive as well. As we know, it takes urine out of the man's body, but it also takes semen out of the man's body. So in a female, this is our first organ that differs between males and females. I'm not sure if you noticed, but all the way through this course, pretty much every structure we talked about applied to both males and females until the urinary system. And most of the urinary system is the same too, kidneys, bladder, but it changes at the urethra because in a man's urethra it serves a reproductive function, female urethra does not. So anyway, things are starting to become a little different between the two sexes. So, do you see these two things that look a little like antennae? So let's reorient so we're not too dizzy. The bladder might look probably like a little like that. So here's our system. We could just keep it like that so everyone's kind of straightforward. So I'm asking about these things. They look a little, now I'm going to pick it up so we're kind of oriented. So here's the bladder, there's the prostate. Anybody know? And this is only part of the structure. Anyone take a wild guess what these might be? I'll give you a clue. See how far you are along in your studying. These two things come, and they're rather firm. They're not floppy. They poke up. Okay, they come around the back of the bladder. I'm going to turn it upside down so don't get too dizzy. And they actually penetrate in to the back of the prostate. Anybody have an idea what these two tubules might be?
Vas deferens?
Vas deferens.
Okay.
They originated in the scrotum. And during ejaculation, the sperm come up out of the scrotum, around town, and this is where they end up going behind the bladder and plugging in to the back of the prostate gland. There's more. Okay, so here's our normal orientation. Here's those two little bunny ears or those two little antennae of the vas deferens. And now we're going to look at the back and the bottom. So we're really going to do a somersault here, okay? Alrighty, are you with me? Mm-hmm. Do you see these things that look like grapes? Like a sack of grapes. They're kind of bulgy and lumpy. So this is the bottom. That's the bottom of the prostate. Once again, there was that urethra. Anybody know what? There's one over here, looks like a sack of grapes. One over here looks like a sack of grapes. And they're very much associated. See those two vas deferens? Mm-hmm. They actually come right in with those grapes. Anybody know what the grapes are? It's on the list.
It's not the covers.
Seminal gland.
Yes, seminal glands. Okay.
Seminal gland. So is that on the list? It should be on the list. Yeah. Those are the seminal glands, and they make sugar for semen. About 60% of semen is sugar, fructose, which is produced in these seminal glands. So check this out, a little male reproduction stuff for you. So here in the vas deferens, it's just sperm. They came from the epididymis down in the scrotum, next to the testicles, so it's just sperm, which makes up about 5% of the semen. But once they comes here, another 60% of the semen, which is primarily sugar, joins in the sperm. It's the sperm's energy supply for swimming up to the, in the female's reproductive tract. So a lot more secretion joins the sperm here, and then it all enters, that sugar plus the sperm enter the back of the prostate gland, where the prostate is squeezing. Now we're talking about male ejaculation here, orgasm. The prostate is squeezing, and the prostate has another like 30% of the semen at this point. So you have 5% is the sperm, 60% is sugar from the seminal gland, and then another 30% is contributed from the prostate fluid. It's just called generically. It has a bunch of enzymes and things that, check the notes about what each of these things adds to, what's the function of all of these juices, of all of these secretions that go into the semen. There's also one other secretion that is added after all of this stuff from the Cowper's gland. A final like 5% is added, lubricant. and an alkaline solution that neutralizes the female's vagina, which is rather acidic. So anyway, there's 3 glands involved. The seminal gland, the prostate gland make up most of the semen, plus we have the sperm coming in on the vas deferens. So by the time we're here at the urethra, we've got 95% of the semen is flowing into the urethra at this point. Another little 5% gets added very shortly, right at the base of the penis. Another 5% adds at the very end as a lubricant, and it helps the sperm in the rather hostile environment of the female's vagina. The female really wants to kill the sperm. It's kind of an odd evolutionary thing. Why would that want to happen? Doesn't seem like it's going to help make babies if the systems aren't working together. But it's okay. The semen has things to offset the female's defenses. It's basically she's defending her body from things getting up in there. So it has to have defenses. It can't really tell the difference between a sperm and a bacteria. It just tries to keep everything out. But the semen has stuff to kind of help the sperm get by the defenses and up into the uterus where things are a little more safe. So that's largely the function of these juices in the semen, to increase the sperm's chance of success. And we all know what success means in that regard. Okay? See that list, please.